Hi, everyone, and welcome to another round of USN TravelTalk. We are starting up again with our travel talks this autumn, almost winter we're coming into here in Scandinavia. And we're going to make them a little bit different like we did before summer. We're going to make them more shorter, so it's easy for you to follow with us. We do a 50 minutes casual talk about the different destinations. And the first one out today is I'm going to talk with Liran. Welcome, Liran. Liran is from IsraelExperts, and we're going to talk a little bit how Israel are after, post-pandemic or during pandemic, or like a little bit how things are actually basically today. What I will do, I think before we're starting off, Liran, you can introduce yourself. Maybe you can introduce yourself now, and then afterwards we just play a little video to get us in the mood for Israel as well.
Great. So, Christine, thank you for the invitation. So, as you said, my name is Liran. I'm the acting CEO of IsraelExperts. We are an incoming content-based DMC in Israel. We are running for 20 years, and I'm looking forward for this 15 minutes to talk a little bit about Israel and what we have now COVID-wise.
Exactly. And I'm going to find the video here, and I'm going to play you the video first so we get into the mood.
On most vacations, you take a trip. But in Israel, you'll take a journey you'll never forget. Here you'll experience things so extraordinary, from the inspired to the inspiring, the humble to the truly humble, where people come to learn, laugh, connect, in a country with thousands of years of recommendations. What you see, touch, and feel in Israel you'll never experience anywhere else. Begin your journey to Israel now. Begin your journey to Israel now.
At my microphone now, we can even hear me. That was just a short little intro to get us in the mood, I think, more or less for Israel. So, of course, I think what everybody is asking, they're asking everyone actually when we're looking at traveling is, how is the situation in Israel?
So I must say that, if you compare it to Europe, it's pretty good, touch wood. Israel had 4 waves of the COVID pandemic until now. Now the numbers are very stable. We are in a stagnation mode, and there are probably around 120 severe cases in the hospitals, and we are a population of 9 million people in Israel. So it's not a lot, and 80% of the population is fully vaccinated, and 50% is fully vaccination plus the booster shot, and now we are starting to vaccinate the children as well, 5 to 12. So the situation in Israel is pretty calm. All the businesses are running, everything is open, cultures, everything, cinemas, hotels, bars. So people aren't feeling restrictions in Israel. But let's see what will happen. We are entering the winter, so
exactly, winter is coming in, and we can see that, of course, in Europe. And I think that's why people are, a little bit maybe conscious when they're leaving out of the country. It is, I would say, like we said, we got a few people online here, and like we say that Scandinavia has been the same. We are probably around 75% vaccinated. Booster shots is coming in. They're looking at teenagers. We're not going all the way down to 5, but we're looking at teenagers. But you see there has been outbreaks, but of course we don't wear any face mask here. So how is it with face mask in Israel? Do you wear face mask in Israel?
Yes, we do only indoors.
Only indoors?
Yeah, outdoors you don't have to wear facial masks.
Yeah.
Indoors you do have to wear them. And it depends if it's like a capsule environment when you are in an office that all the employees are fully vaccinated, and they are interacting with each other on a daily basis, so people aren't wearing masks at the office. But for example, if we will go, I'm sorry to cut you off, if we will go to the cinema and we won't have popcorn in our hands, we will wear masks.
Okay.
So
if, for example, if I'm coming down, let's see, I come down, I'm visiting you, and we're going out in a restaurant. So I don't need to wear a face mask walking on the streets. But the moment I come to the door for the restaurants, I need to put my face mask on.
Exactly, and you know,
and when I sit down and eat, and I take it off again.
You can. It's not recommended, but you can. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, but this is how it goes, by the way, in Israel.
Sorry?
And this is how it goes regarding facial masks.
So, but is there any concerts and sports events or something like that, like football matches? Are they going on, and like bigger events? Do you have that in Israel at the moment? Yeah. So if I'm going to a bigger event, for example, I'm going to a football match, do I need to put on a face mask when I'm going into the stadium?
When you are entering the stadium, yes, but you know, the stadium is an open quarter, so you don't have to wear the mask. But for example, if you are going to a basketball game, which is, you know, indoor, yes, you do have to wear it.
Okay. So even if I'm up with a lot of people, but outdoor, I don't need to wear it. But if I'm indoor, I need to wear it.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's it for the tourists as well. So they just need to remember to have a face mask with them and what the rules are. Are you also differentiating between vaccinated and non-vaccinated in terms of, you know, we have like a pass, you know, or like an app on us which shows that I'm vaccinated. So, for example, I have Pfizer, you know, vaccine. I can show that, and then I am can enter a lot of places with that, you know, kind of passport. They call it the Corona passport.
It's a great question because in Israel, it's pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Each one that has been fully vaccinated, you know, with 2 shots, the main vaccination is in Israel are Moderna and Pfizer for the Israeli population. So once you are fully vaccinated, you have an application of the Ministry of Health, and you do need to show it. It's like it's called the green pass in Israel.
Yeah.
This is how we call it. And yes, once you are entering a restaurant, you need to show it. You need to show that it's valid, and then you can enter. So it's pretty much the same. And when tourists are coming to Israel, from the beginning of November, the Israeli Ministry of Tourism and, you know, Ministry of Interior with the Ministry of Health opened Israel for FITs as well, for individual travelers as well, not only for groups. So once they come to Israel, and if they do want to enter a restaurant or, you know, a closed area, when they need to register in advance or they need to show, yes, they will show their green pass at their application, and it will be fine as well. They don't, you know, they aren't receiving something local, for example. So it works pretty much the same.
Okay. So for me as a tourist, when I'm entering, I can now enter into Israel both in a group, if I'm traveling in a group, like a travel agency does a group tour or, you know, a set departure or something like that. But I can also travel as an individual.
Yeah, you can. When you are in a group, you are traveling as a capsule. So it needs to be a fixed itinerary with, you know, fixed locations, with a specific guide and driver, and the group is doing all the tourist attractions in Israel. You know, we as a DMC are booking it in advance, notifying all the authorities, but they are traveling as a capsule. When you are traveling as an FIT, of course, you know, you aren't traveling in a capsule, so you're free to do whatever you want as long as you meet the restrictions that we have in Israel, you know, prior to entering and when you are entering Israel.
Okay, so of course, when you're entering as a group, and that's also more for travel agents, you know, listening into it as well. Of course, they book it through a DMC, which can be, of course, you or IsraelExperts. So when you have a request on a group, you would make the whole itinerary, but it doesn't need to be a program every day. People can also go out on their own, even if they're in a capsule. Can they still like for example, in Jerusalem or in Tel Aviv, if I'm in Tel Aviv with a group, we might have programmed for 1.5 days, and we're there for 3 days. So I can, as a person traveling in a group, go to a restaurant by myself, and I don't need to go out with a group all the time.
For now, they need to travel as a capsule, so they need to go as a group.
Yeah.
I know that it sounds maybe challenging because, okay, what is the difference from an FIT and from a group? But for now, the group needs to travel as a capsule. But when we build the itinerary in advance, so for example, if they are staying 2 nights in Tel Aviv, so we can arrange for them, a free time to stroll in Rothschild Boulevard, for example. There is a starting point and an ending point. So everybody is coming to Rothschild Boulevard area, which is full packed with bars and restaurants and whatever. They can they can go, they can see, they can explore. But it needs to be at the itinerary that we have for them.
Yeah, but if you have a night off in terms of in the itinerary, there is one night which there is no set program and people needs to eat dinner, they can go out and eat dinner at the restaurant by themselves, even if they're in a group.
For now, no.
Okay.
Once they are traveling in a group, no, they don't. We need to facilitate everything for them. So as a group, we will arrange them, dinner at a restaurant or at the hotel or whatever. But it needs to be in a capsule. This is what we have now regarding, the COVID restrictions in Israel.
Yeah. Okay. So, but if I'm then coming to, I know we're kind of going on to probably something we have to talk about on a different talk together on how you're actually entering, but just checking on how you're entering, even if you're entering a group or an individual, what people need is they need a negative PCR test still to enter Israel. Yeah.
Yes, 72 hours prior to their arrival to Israel, they need to do a PCR, at their mother country. Negative result. 48 hours to 24 hours prior to the departure, they have an online link to the Ministry of Health. They need, it's like an application for a visa, but it's not, COVID. So they need to upload the results to the portal. They are receiving a certificate. They can show it from the mobile or print it, whatever, at the check-in, and they can board the flight. Okay. Once they are coming to Israel, they are doing a PCR test, and until they receive the results, they need to stay in quarantine. It can be at the hotel, but for an individual, it's challenging because if the results, will come after 20 hours, they will have to stay at the hotel.
Yeah.
In most cases, the results come 2-3 hours after they do it. This is what's happening in most cases, but as a group, it's a little bit easier because they are traveling as a group. So they can do, for example, sightseeing, from the bus or traveling. So we can pass the time until they receive the negative results, and they are free to continue with their itinerary.
Okay, so it's basically a negative test 72 hours before departure. Upload that onto the link to the Ministry of Tourism, so you get your, your approval basically to travel into Israel. And then upon arrival, you have to take another PCR test at the airport. Yeah, is it costing anything, that one?
Yeah, it costs 80 shekels at the airport, and in euro divided, it's let's say 25
euros. Yeah. Okay.
The euro is 3 point something, so it's 25, 23 euros, something like this. And there is an option that they will do it at the hotel as well, but it's pricier.
Yeah. Okay. So you can do it at the airport for around 23 euros, and then you go straight to the airport or straight to the hotel, and you wait for the results, and then after that one, you're free to continue your itinerary, basically.
Yeah, they receive, by the way, the results to their mobile, to their phone number, to their email.
We do everywhere. Exactly.
Yeah.
I'll see we coming in. I think that was a nice intro, Liran, because at least we know what they need to expect in terms of course, PCR test everywhere, more or less. Very few countries doesn't need a PCR test to get in. Most people also test upon arrival as well. I think outside of Europe, at least, we're still on to that. And like you said, face masks only indoor, so outdoor. So when you're going outdoor and look at cultural sightseeings and everything, you don't need your face mask on. It's basically when you're indoor with other people. And you have your vaccination passport, you're basically easier. You have an easier travel if you're traveling with your vaccinations passport, or else, you might be restrictions. So that's basically, if we sum it up, isn't it? If you're talking about how Israel are at the moment. And how hopefully some of these restrictions on the PCR tests and stuff maybe easing up a little bit after New Year. We have to wait and see what happens next year. Exactly. Thank you very much, Liran, for doing that. I know we had a few people with us. I can see Jeanette here saying that she traveled in 1984, actually. She traveled around in Israel. When she studied travel business, but she says also I would definitely travel or come back again. So that's so nice. Thank you, Jeanette, for that. But that was our 15 minutes of fame here, talking about how Israel actually is opening up. And I think next time we're probably going to talk a little bit more the different destinations. So we have a couple of talks coming up. We're going to talk about Jerusalem. We're going to talk a little bit of Tel Aviv. And also probably how your sun, we're getting into winter with snow and everything. We want to have some sun and sandy beaches. So we're going to talk about that. So thank you again, Liran. Pleasure to have you. And see you soon.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Take care.